Guys, welcome back to another video. This is actually the part 2 of the Roanoke, the great cover-up of the Wendigo Bros. The Wendigo Bros. So anyways, this is by Armored Skeptic once again. So, I would like to say, shout out to Armored Skeptic. If you would like me to take down my video, I will take down my video. Other than that, thanks for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and we are on the road to 500,000. So share me with your friends, and let's get on. Let's get on. Let's go.
Hey buddy, happy Thanksgiving. Last time we discussed the possibility that England covered up the truth about the lost colony of Roanoke.
Wendigos.
Because they were humiliated at the fact that their first attempt at proper settlement of the
Americas
led to their people being desperate and starving, turning them into zombies. Yes, a silly idea, I know. I still maintain that there was a cover-up and that the English created a historical narrative that was intentionally misleading to hide the truth. But the evidence I found
Just so if Armored Skeptic ever sees this video, which he will eventually, I'm going to say that I was just actually having a joke with my girlfriend about him being the historic Matt Mercer.
To a more complicated reason as to why they would do this. A new book called The Lost Colony in Hatteras Island proposes that the colony integrated with the native population in the area. And that's what I believe too. But I also believe that Governor John White, Sir Walter Raleigh, and the Queen probably knew that. So why would they hide that from everyone? Why did they keep it a secret and pretend that they only just guessed that that's what happened to them? Why did the English government never go back to North Carolina and do a proper investigation? Why would Governor John White abandon his own family? I think
all very, very valid questions.
That was the plan from the very beginning.
Schemes.
And that we were never supposed to find out the truth. But before we get started, if you're enjoying the series, guys, you have to hit subscribe and the notification bell now. And if you'd like to support the channel, please consider donating to my Patreon.
Boom, 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 boom.
Governor John White was already very familiar with North Carolina and Virginia. He had spent the previous 2 years exploring the area on behalf of Sir Walter Raleigh, creating...
I still can't believe they were really dressing like this. You see this? They was really dipping like this back then. Yeah. It's like I'm in a t-shirt, some shorts, and a black backwards cap, and they was back here like hair slicked back. Pointed beards, mustaches.
He probably has a corset on. Waist unsnatched.
Creating intricate maps and paintings.
Oh my gosh.
John White was a skilled...
Oh, and then these were the natives. Oh my god, the next picture was so funny. They was just naked. Just like...
Are they dingling?
No, that's the little like burlap sack they hang.
And artist. A lot of the paintings from that era were actually made by him. White had created relations with the Secatan and actually became great friends with the Croatoans, bringing members from those tribes over to England as ambassadors to meet the Queen. But the colony itself was a private enterprise. Though they had Queen Elizabeth's blessing, the Crown didn't seem too interested in recovering the settlers after they were found missing.
The school textbook version of the story for the lost colony of Roanoke is very simple and easy to digest. But while researching the events, I realized that there are quite a few details in the story that didn't seem to make it into the zeitgeist. It turns out that this mystery isn't really that big.
I'm gonna go like this. Maybe 1 point, a little bit up.
A mystery, and it only seems that way because Americans are taught a watered down version of the story. And I think a lot of that has to do with what was considered an acceptable historical narrative at the time.
Of course, everything in. So I have a few history people who watch me, so I don't want to upset you guys, but come on, everything is no. I feel like the history guys that go deep definitely know that it's like most of the history's changed because whoever has the power of the history is what the name implies. It's his story. So whoever has the narrative controls the mind. or the ones that don't think.
intentionally avoiding what would have been considered taboo subjects.
In the original narrative of the story, the word Croatoan carved on the tree was
Hey,
supposed
what
to
you doing back there with that bag?
Movie?
be some sort of a cryptic, mysterious clue left behind by the settlers, but it was later revealed in Governor John White's writings that he had secretly instructed the settlers to write Croatoa on the tree if they were to go to Croatoa. So did he not tell that to the Queen? Why did that detail get buried? And when John White went back to the colony 3 years later to check on the settlers, history records that as a resupply mission. But that's not true at all. John White had chartered a ride on a privateer vessel that was captained by a friend of his because he was already on his way to South America to attack Spanish vessels. He wasn't there to resupply them. Those ships were loaded down with Spanish booty. He was just there to find closure. He had to ride that vessel for the better part of a year just so that he could get 2 or 3 months' time to search for his daughter. It wasn't until they were already on their return trip back to Europe when John White was finally allowed to search the island of Roanoke. Again, the English had spent no resources into looking into their fate. So when he came back to England and said that he couldn't find anything because the weather was too bad and it kept blowing his ships
It was literally because,
out
yeah,
to sea,
wow.
why
it
didn't
was-
he make a more thorough search? Why didn't he go back again? And why would the English government accept this? Why wouldn't the Crown also want closure on this event? I think the main reason the English wouldn't disclose the truth about the colony basically boils down to racism. At the time, the English would have seen the natives as uncivilized. They called them savages, and they would have seen the English as representatives of proper English society. And to them, the idea that the Queen's people could not only coexist with natives, but also live with them, marry them, have children with them, that was very offensive to
Gotta push the narrative that we need diversity. Or not diversity, we need diversion. We need division. Not diversity,
the
division.
English at the time.
Damn.
And I think this was made clear when later European explorers encountered blue-eyed natives in the North Carolina
Gray?
and Virginia
Gray?
area that not
They had gray eyes?
only could speak Latin, but also mentioned Sir Walter Raleigh by name.
The colonists also had
wow.
a wide variety of skills like masonry, leather crafting, and metalworking, which would have made them highly sought after by different native groups. European explorers later ran into native tribe groups that had stone walls that were atypical to the type of work they could do themselves. So it's reasonable to assume that the colonists would have been hired to do this kind of work for these tribes.
And not just hired to do the kind of work, but hired to teach and to like take apprentices under them to teach the skills to them.
The fact that the English didn't take this as evidence of the survival of the settlers and instead continued to deny knowledge of their final fate shows that they probably didn't want the truth to get out. But that's only part of it. I have reason to believe that John White was counting on England denying that such a thing had happened, and that he'd intentionally
this
set
much
up
of a
that
scheme?
situation so that the Queen would have no motivation to press further into the truth.
Oh, to press forward.
The
Oh,
island-
so he basically did it. So is this like the beginning of Europe's influence being basically denied from? It's like leading into what created, like America, like breaking off. I see.
Roanoke still exists, but they say because of changing tides that the island has changed shape over time so drastically that the spot where the colony was set up is now underwater. But if you remember, the settlers were surrounded by hostile natives. They would have been open to attacks from pirates and the Spanish. So why wasn't the settlement set up deeper into the wilderness of the island where passing ships wouldn't see them? Why would they be exposed right out in the open? Why would they set up their buildings right on the shoreline and make themselves targets like that?
Were the settlers even on the island of Roanoke to begin with? Some of the evidences used to create the new theory are artifacts found on Hatteras Island that date back to the late 1500s. But that's not proof of the settlement at the time. It was actually quite common for Europeans to trade old items to the natives. So those artifacts could have come from later meetings with the English. Also, 48 stones have turned up with carvings on them that were supposedly written by Elizabeth White Dare, daughter of Governor John White. Of those 48 stones, only one has not been proven a hoax. And that one is very compelling. It tells a story that her husband, Ananias Dare, and daughter, Virginia Dare, were slain by natives in an attack, and only 7 of the original colonists survived. But what happened to the bodies of the other 113? The Croatoan are basically an extinct tribe today, though there are
Imagine if like they like all the stones were fake. Like someone just wrote those stones and then placed them, or like made really old looking, like weathered. They just made artifacts that looked weathered and eroded and just like placed them on the banks or the shores and just
living descendants, the United States government does not recognize their legal status as an established tribe, meaning little is done to preserve their heritage. Native bones found in the North Carolina area often go unreported, resulting in development crews bulldozing their site and their land, Hatteras Island itself.
Whoever has Roanoke in their bloodline, I'm sorry for y'all. I don't exactly know what my tribe is because I'm native, but that's crazy. It'd be crazy if Roanoke was mine.
Now has a high school where the tribe used to live.
Damn.
What's really bizarre is that an archaeological dig done in 1998 unearthed a gun lock and a bronze ring that dated to the late 16th century. It was taken off island but never put on display anywhere. And apparently you need to apply for special permission to view those items. Why wouldn't they make information about these items publicly available? And no,
you have to request special view to view them? Why did they're afraid of the people who were in past lives, or they're afraid of the family members coming by and discovering something, because maybe it could get that whole school zone wiped by a family member who's like, oh, these are my ancestors, y'all built on our land, give us the land back, sort of deal. That'd be crazy. That'd be insane if that was the case. Cause why? Why? I'm trying to think about why you would have to request special viewing for that. That sounds so stupid. They're afraid of like the people who reincarnated into the future tribe that are coming back to like. Okay, I was gonna make a dark joke, but I'm not gonna say it. But I'll just say they're gonna come and take the school back.
City or government has ever funded an archaeological dig there. Every dig that has been done was either funded by A&E or the Discovery Channel or some other television program. What makes the colony of Roanoke a true mystery is not where they could have gone, but the fact that there's no evidence that they even existed at all. There are no artifacts that tie directly to that specific colony.
Though Governor John White was the head of the colonization project, it was actually funded by Sir Walter Raleigh, an Irishman that was knighted by the Queen because she enjoyed his company. Their relationship is really weird. She was known as the Virgin Queen and could only have male companions, not boyfriends or husbands. They had chosen Chesapeake Bay because Virginia was Sir Walter Raleigh's claim to the Americas, and the Queen had given him permission to colonize that area. I think that Sir Walter Raleigh and Governor John White were trying to pull the wool over the Queen's eyes a little bit. Sir Walter Raleigh would quite often get in trouble, get arrested, but then was able to find favor in the Queen, to find forgiveness after he would give her lavish gifts, things that he would find on his escapades. He was the man that introduced tobacco to Europe. He's kind of like the real-life Han Solo. But before Sir Walter Raleigh organized Governor John White's colonists, he had received correspondence from North Carolina that suggested that he should take great interest in the Roanoke area. At the time, the Spanish had the most powerful navy, which is why they had the most control over North and South America. Sir Walter Raleigh received a letter explaining that Roanoke, and more specifically the island of Croatoa, had an amazing view of any ships that would pass up from Florida heading back to Europe. From that location, they could covertly set up a base which would keep tabs on Spanish activity in the area, and from there they could even secretly attack Spanish ships, which wouldn't have been strictly legal because England wasn't officially at war with Spain at the time. And during peacetime, it was even illegal for privateers to take part in such a practice. It would have been considered piracy unless it was during wartime, and they had been strictly contracted by a monarch to take part in the war effort. The Spanish returning to Europe would have been loaded down with supplies, spices, trading goods that they had taken from the New World. And since it wasn't wartime, the Spanish wouldn't have expected an organized effort to loot the ship,
so they would get it. They wouldn't have anybody really on board armed or heavily armed. Maybe like very light arms, but very vulnerable to attacks.
Way back to Europe. And if the English had been caught doing such a practice, it would have been considered an act of war. So they would have had to have played it off as if it was pirates who were acting on their own accord. So if the official story says that all of the colonists and soldiers that England sent to Roanoke had either perished or been lost, then there would have been plausible deniability of England's involvement in that practice. And
you know what I'm realizing watching this, and I just like kind of like felt like, whoa, damn, am I desensitized? Is like we're talking about real events that happen where people just were getting slaughtered back and forth, but it's such like a normal thing to hear where it's just like, oh, it's just going over my head. But it's like, damn, you imagine you were just on a ship one day. That's the second time I've seen that number. Crazy. But you're just on a ship one day going by trading spices, and then you absolutely get, no scope by people with bows. You get absolutely like Kilimanjaro'd by a whole group of European settlers with native settlers, or just imagine. And it's just like, we're just talking, he's talking about it in this video so casually about like your ship getting raided and stuff. It's like a weird thing, man.
And it's even likely that Sir Walter Raleigh didn't even tell Queen Elizabeth
Sir Walter
herself.
Raleigh.
I get the sense that he did a lot of things without telling her, which is why he got in trouble so often.
Yeah,
There's a
true,
famous
yeah.
map that has a spot in the area that was later covered up. When you reveal the
What the
original
heck?
drawing underneath, it shows what looks like a star fort, or maybe a cross. Regardless, this symbol
That looks like a star. That looks like a cool star fort.
likely marks a spot where the English had set up a secret base. There were several star forts in the area at the time, one used for the storage and protection of salt, a Fort Raleigh, a small outpost that was several miles inland off of the island of Roanoke.
That's
But
such
there's
a
no
cool
mention of the
design.
colonists' relationship with that outpost. Do you think it's possible that the colonists actually knew about Fort Raleigh and that they were there specifically to help Sir Walter Raleigh's devious plans? England had religiously
Secret
seceded
rebellion.
from Rome. They were now Anglican, and the Queen was the head of their church. But being Catholic, the Spanish wouldn't have recognized the Queen's holy position, instead siding with Rome and the Pope. But here's the interesting part. A lot of the players involved in the Roanoke story, like Sir Walter Raleigh and Governor John White, were Irish, and the Irish are infamously Catholic. But a couple details in the stories, like John White telling the settlers to carve a Maltese cross in the tree, it's possible that the colony on Roanoke were religious separatists. Maybe the colonists moved to America and intentionally became lost so they could escape the rule of Anglicanism and live freely as Catholics. They wouldn't have wanted to join the Spanish. Nobody loved the way the Spanish pushed religion back then. I'm sure you've heard of the horrors of the Spanish Revolution, but whenever the Spanish would meet a new tribe or nation in the Americas, as a display of their power and to convince them to join Catholicism, they would arbitrarily choose 5 members of the tribe, crucify them, make an example of them, and then harshly punish anybody who did not strictly follow the rule of Catholicism. And then they'd be like, welcome to Christianity. So when the English and Irish heard about this practice,
That shows right there how terrifying religious is. And I feel like, religion was. And then you think about religion now, and the worst you get from people like that is just literally like, don't talk any shit about God, or you will find yourself hung. But it's all just words, you know.
they were pretty mortified. Famously, one of the trees said Croatoan, but there was another tree that said CRO. There's a few possible different Irish translations.
Bro, they were leaving their tags everywhere. Is this where sprays in games come from? You know when you got different sprays? I think Overwatch has sprays. Or maybe like, what else has sprays? No, I know Overwatch has stickers or sprays, whatever they call them. I'm trying to think about other games. Oh yeah, Valorant has sprays. CSGO. Was this like their spray tags? They just write crow everywhere in Croatoan.
Into modern English, like eye, house, hole, aperture. But I think that this was a code. Like I said,
Aperture.
Governor John White had already spent several
That made me
years
think
in
of
the
Portal.
Americas, becoming friends and creating relations with the natives that live in North Carolina and Virginia. With how much love he showed the natives, I find it quite hard to believe that he wouldn't have noticed that the First Nations people of America had life much better than the average European citizen of 1585. Sure, they didn't have any of the technological conveniences of contemporary England,
Yeah, but the simpler
Secatan and
life.
Croatoan would have been living much richer, fuller, freer
yep.
lives,
Yep.
removed from the stresses of answering to strict British rule.
Yep.
And they were much better fed. The Secatan had much more bountiful harvests that had to be
Yep.
shared among less people. And they were eating more nutritious foods, fresh grains, fruits, vegetables, luscious corn, and juicy watermelon. They were healthier and happier. Meanwhile, the English were defecating in chamber pots and throwing it out the window, into the
yeah.
street. The River Thames was basically an open sewer. People were always mysteriously getting sick and dying. They were all suffering from being underfed and malnourished. And of course, were living under the strict rule of British government. I believe that Governor John White wanted to get his daughter out of that life and send her to the New World where she could live free. He wanted her to live a much more rich and bountiful life with the Croatoan, the people he had fallen in love with.
Cool, so that's what I suspected too. Like, my dude, so this was leading into like the America.
John
where
White
it's
died
like,
about 10 years before Queen Elizabeth, so he never got to witness the final outcome of the investigation. But after King James took over, several people involved in the establishment of the colony, including Sir Walter Raleigh, were arrested as enemies of the state without proper explanation as to what they had done wrong. Obviously, they were being charged with some sort of espionage, or being punished for operating with so much agency. I believe that King James probably knew that many of Queen Elizabeth's Irish-born agents were operating illegal enterprises right under her nose. Thank you for watching. Make sure to give this video a like, guys, that helps me out a lot. And catch me next time when I talk about a brand new conspiracy theory that I guarantee you've never heard of before. Missing hikers in Russia, but it's not what you think. And make sure to subscribe to my second channel where I do a follow-up to every video in this series.
that is a creepy thing. Okay, I want to watch this one later. I'm gonna put this. I want to watch that one on my own time. What I will say about this one and the whole truth about Roanoke, it actually makes me think about a post I recently posted on my story about a long time ago. People were willing to risk their lives for things they believe in, and now you barely get people who want to leave their home because of security reasons, or like the whole thought of what security means, and people just not risking and going out and speaking their truth. And that was like an example of that for me, where he wanted to get his daughter out of that life and the things he went through, even like, you know, espionage under the Queen's nose, and then even getting other people that like agreed with him, the ones who were arrested that wanted to set up this, that kind of led to the events of like, hey, freedom means this, let's do this, let's live like this, let's live better like this. Like, he's seen the tribe and was like, this is how motherfuckers should be living. We're living free, not like this disgusting cramped shit that they're doing over there. There's a better way for all of this. And like risked his life and his beliefs for that. He died because he didn't get to see the final outcome of the trial, so I guess he got the better end of the deal there. But then his compadres that were linked up with him in that, I'm pretty sure they got the execution. Like when he brought up the picture of the dude on his knees next to the little axe, the executioner, damn, it seems like the rest of them didn't get the better end of that deal. But at least they probably died grateful for what they created or what they started, because this is before, it seems like, the whole, what is the war? Why can I not remember? Is it the Revolutionary War? Or the, what is it the, I feel like I'm wrong. Revolutionary War. What's that? It's the Revolutionary War, right? Yeah, American Revolutionary War. The war, or the War of Independence. Yeah, all that. Wow, there was a person named Esther Forbes during that? Oh, it was a Revolutionary War author. Esther. That name's coming up a lot now. Very interesting, but yeah. Yeah. It's like, it like led. The dates were April 19th to September 3rd. April 19th. Very interesting. I feel like I'm seeing a pattern in numbers. Anyways, yeah. But it's cool that they died for that. Like, you know, like within that, like if they thought it was, well, obviously, because it kind of built up into that. Anyways, much love and moonlight. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.